Thanksgiving. Welcome back to the JMC Thanksgiving special. Welcome back to the JMC experience. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, all of my beautiful non-binary people. Welcome back. It is Thanksgiving. I hope you're in the mood for, first of all, I ain't gonna be mad if you ain't listening to this podcast right away, because you should be surrounded by, family, friends, loved ones. Hopefully you're blessed with some good food. But I'm just saying, when that food's digesting and you're sitting down and you're getting ready to relax, you might put the JMC podcast on. You know what I mean? Put the JMC podcast on and get ready for another wonderful episode. First and foremost, can I just say I am super grateful for everybody that is supporting me and this podcast. It does not go unnoticed. I am blessed with a wonderful family, my wife, my children, my mom, my sisters, my aunts and uncles, my dad, my stepfather. Listen, I'm a lucky guy. I am blessed, and I take every day like it's my last. I take it, and I do as much as I can with it. So I hope you can relate to that, and I hope you can appreciate that, because if you can, then you know what it is. You know what I'm talking about. Let's get right into this episode. I got to interview my wife's uncle, Tío Izzy, Israel Flores. This guy's he's a jokester. He likes to joke around. He likes to have a good time. He's a very deep thinker, has a lot to say. And Tío Izzy suffered a stroke recently, a few months back. And so him wanting to be on this podcast was a pretty big deal. He actually, came to my wife and said that he'd like to be on. And so Alexandra told me, and I was a little bit surprised at first. I got to be honest with you. But, the opportunity to hear a story like his, why not? So he came over, him and his wife Cindy came over one Saturday. He's taking things slowly. He's taking things, one day at a time. And he mentions in the interview that that's not really his bag. He's not used to that. He's learning how to be patient. And that's tough. That's tough when you are used to just going at life at a certain speed. But he still was managing the conversation. He still managed to get here and have the conversation and share his story, share his journey. And so I'm excited to share this with you. And I'm excited to share this on a day like Thanksgiving, because I was just thankful, super thankful. And I'm blessed. So nonetheless, this right here, episode 49, my wife's uncle, my wife's godfather, Tío Izzy, Israel Flores, episode 49. JMC, let's go. All right. Well, Tío Izzy, thank you very much for, first of all, for coming over. I know that you reached out to Alexandra. We were just talking about that. I'm not sure how you heard about the podcast. Was it from your kids, your daughters? Was it Michelle? Was it?
I think it was Alexandra.
Oh, Alexandra?
Said that you had gotten a microphone and you wanted to do something with it. But yeah, she's the one that told us about it. And I said, hey, well, I wouldn't mind being on there once.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for letting me be on there. This is not one of those things that you do every day. So it's just nice to be able to project yourself onto somebody else.
Yeah, and then also it's sometimes we could use an opportunity to just share some thoughts and talk about some things that, a memory or a story, and capturing those moments, I've learned through this podcast is it's healthy, because people listen back and they're like, this is actually kind of therapeutic for me. I didn't think about this story until we were talking. And then I just, so that whole experience is really what I'm aiming for. And I'm really grateful, obviously, that you requested, because I don't ever like to force anybody, to do something that's out of their wheelhouse, so to speak. And this is a big deal for me. But before we get started, let's talk about how you're doing, because we were just talking about it. You just had a stroke a while ago, and thankfully you're here talking with me. How are you feeling? Are you feeling much better?
I'm not feeling the way I used to before the stroke, but I'm getting there. It's just taking me a while to do the things that I used to do. I have trouble getting up and down the steps. But at the where we go for PT. Anyway, they said that
to the general hospital.
No, to Willow Lakes.
Oh, Willow Lakes. Okay.
They told me that I'm too hard on myself, and I should give myself a chance.
You're not letting yourself rest. Was that what it is?
Well, that's what I told them. I said I have to take a nap in the morning, then another nap in the afternoon. So
it's a change of pace you're not used to.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm one of those guys who usually goes until I drop.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden I drop at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's not good. I can't even go down to the basement to get stuff that I need to do any work, let alone even think about the work. It affected my speech. It affected my moving around. It affected my know-how.
Yeah.
So it affects how I deal with my wife. There's a lot of things that you don't know that could go wrong until it goes wrong. My whole left side was totally useless to me.
Okay.
To the point where I have to drag this leg around. My left leg is not working as well. But hey, it's been almost 4 months now, so I'm getting along. I'm catching up to everybody else. I think my intelligence hasn't wavered too much. And I thank God for that, because to be able to keep up with somebody in a conversation is important to me.
Yeah.
Some people don't like to be spoken to or asked about things, but I'm a conversation person. I'm an all kind of people person. So it was important for me to keep my mind. And I told them when this happened to me, I said, if you can't wake me up, if I can't get to where I was, then just let me die. Because my sister Iris is still in a coma from a stroke.
Yeah.
And my brother Tony, who's a year younger than I am, has a real bad time speaking, and he can't hardly get around because of strokes. And now we just learned that it runs in our family.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Yeah. So
this is something then that you're thinking of this while you're experiencing this whole aftermath, experience afterwards, and trying to cope with the slower pace of things that you said it yourself, that you're a go-getter, so to speak, and you like to get things, obviously get going and get things done. Everything was forced to slow down for you. It's a hard adjustment. You're dealing with that, but also you're very much aware that, and you're learning that this runs in the family. So what goes through your mind when do you take the time to really start thinking about, man, were there signs when I was younger that was showing me I was going to have a stroke? Is this something that nobody in your family even knew about, or?
Nobody ever talked about it. The reason I say that is because I'm one of the oldest ones in my family. I only have a sister who's a year or two older than I am. And so I'm sort of like a leader in the family. So we never talked about it. I never thought about it. Even when my mother fell down a set of steps, They said it was a TIA or whatever they call those. He got a TIA, then filled out steps.
Sure.
Filled out the steps, then had the TIA. The thing was, she had a stroke.
Yeah.
And I never thought it could ever happen to me.
Yeah.
I thought, well, she's getting old. You know what I'm saying? So, but now I learned that you can be in your 30s and get a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a heart problem. If you have heart problems, then you can easily get a stroke. And my dad had problems with his heart, and he was diabetic, and I'm sure that his cholesterol was real high. My dad never went on no diet or nothing. So,
Yeah.
and I never did either, and I never thought about it until all of a sudden on Sunday evening, boom, there it is.
I know a lot of times when I talk to my mom, and even when I think of stories that my dad would tell me, it was somewhat taboo for the older generations back in the day to discuss things of this nature, because it was almost like, don't worry yourself over that.
Exactly.
It was not something to talk about, where I feel like nowadays, to know what runs in your family and to really get hip to that at a young age is very important.
Well, and you hear on TV so many times that, hey, I went through a heart attack, or I went through a stroke, and you say, well, that poor fellow, I'm glad that ain't me.
Yeah.
But that can be you. And it would be
right,
you.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And nobody thinks about it until it's too late. It's like when you're texting and driving, you don't think about nothing
Right.
until it happens.
Yeah, yeah,
And then it's too late.
absolutely.
And now this is my best friend.
Yeah, the cane there.
The cane, yeah, and I don't like him.
But I guess that goes into the whole, when you're forced to slow down, you have to start adjusting.
Yeah.
Have you started looking at things differently since you've been forced to slow down?
Yes, I have, because I wonder how many people in the world have gone through a stroke. And, we have a person who's running for the Senate right now who had a stroke in May.
Yeah.
And his name's John Fetterman.
Fetterman, yep.
And, but the thing about it is, how many people in the world come and get a stroke and they don't know why? And I asked the doctor why. And he said, you're overweight, your cholesterol's real high, your blood pressure's real high. I'm diabetic, so he says, you're nothing but a mess.
Yeah.
And
it's like a perfect storm, I guess.
It was a perfect storm. And he said that I had 2 strokes before that I never knew about. Now, how that could happen, I don't know. But I always complained to my wife that how tired I always was. So tired that by 2:00 in the afternoon, I was worthless.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe that was the cost of strokes doing that to me. I don't know. But still, everybody in PT says to me, don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself a chance.
Sure. When you say you're hard on yourself, what are you doing? Are you verbally hard on yourself? Or
I'm hard on this, the fact that the way I think that I have to do everything perfect. Like if I'm doing a remodeling of some sort, I have to have it all done, and I want to do a certain amount by certain time, and I try and keep that schedule.
Sure.
And say, well, I can do that in 3 days. You know what I mean? If you can't do it, then you got a problem. Now you're behind.
Yeah.
And there goes the other project that was supposed to start. Also, I'm used to the fact that my parents made me be in charge all the time. So if they went somewhere, Israel, you're in charge. You know what's going to happen if you don't behave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that same experience, so I can relate.
Yeah. And a lot of times I got clobbered or punished for something I didn't do, but because I was in charge.
Yeah. That
was the problem. So Dad always made me be in charge, and making me be in charge. I want my kids to be that way.
Yeah.
I want my wife to be that way. You know what I've been saying? And all my life, especially the twins would have come to me and say, what are we going to do? So I had to be that way.
Yeah. And at a young age, you were
at a young age, yes.
Sure.
and also I was the leader of the band, so wherever I went, the Twins wanted to go too.
Gotcha.
And that always was a recipe for trouble because
Why were you guys getting into trouble or something?
all the time, all the time. I mean, we used to swim in the Little Creek. It was a little creek I ran from the center of town the whole way down through down past our place, and it was called the Paper Mill Creek because the paper mill would throw all the junk into the creek.
Okay.
And it was always like a whitish color.
Yeah.
And we'd go swimming there.
Oh, wow.
And I'd say to the Twins, "You want to go swimming?" And they'd say, "Yeah, let's go." And we didn't care if we had good clothes on, bad clothes, or nothing. We just went, and we worried about the problem after we.
Okay.
And that was one of my problems, that I didn't think first. And when you don't think first, you're going to get some problems.
Yeah.
And not only that, but we were always hungry. You know, the thing about being hungry is, I don't know, but they say that boys eat a lot. Well, that's true because me and the Twins used to hit every garden there was.
Oh, really?
There wasn't a fruit tree, even the mulberry trees. There were none but leaves left. The orchard, I mean, there was an orchard up from our house, and we used to go up and climb the trees and eat every one of the apples, even when they weren't ripe, and go home as sick as a dog.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I'm sure not all of them were fit to be eaten.
No, they weren't. They had worms and everything in them, and we still ate them. So, we used to have, Mom would buy 5 pints of sugar. She says, "I don't know why the sugar's that lasting." And here she finds out that we were making sugar sandwiches. Mm-hmm. Just take white bread, put sugar on there, and put the other one. That was our sandwich.
Yeah.
And I loved that. And
I know a lot of stories of people doing that from back in the day, making sugar sandwiches.
Yeah. Well, my mom and dad were not rich.
Yeah.
My mom and dad were, to say, at poverty level, because my dad came over from Puerto Rico as a migrant worker, and he ended up in Mannheim, and from Mannheim they moved to Lititz, and they never got above $4 an hour.
Got you. $4 an hour.
Yeah,
they never got above that.
Never got above that.
Wow.
So to raise a family of 11, on $8 an hour, it's not much.
No, I never even thought about that.
Yeah, I wore the same clothes to school every day for weeks at a time.
Wow.
I was made fun of because of the clothes I wore.
Yeah.
I was made up because I never had a haircut. So, and not only that, but I was made fun of because I was Puerto Rican. And to be Puerto Rican and live in Lititz was like being black.
Sure. Which
in Lititz there was a law. It was, what's the name of that dude that made up a whole bunch of laws Jim Crow law.
Oh, the Jim Crow law. Yeah, okay, now I understand what you're saying. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and we lived there.
Yeah.
And our neighbors didn't like us. Our neighbors would say, "Come and get that damn Puerto Rican cat out of my yard."
Your parents, were your parents together when they moved from Puerto Rico, or did they meet?
No, yes, they could. My dad said to my mom, the money to come to here after he was here about a year and a half.
Okay, he sent for her then.
Yeah, I think my dad came here in '52.
Okay.
And my dad left Puerto Rico from the thought that I was gonna die. That I don't want to see my boy die. And I was the first boy born, so
yeah. When your parents moved from Puerto Rico, you moved directly into Lititz, and you were already kind of hinting around experiencing the racism, the blatant racism that was prevalent back in that time.
Oh yes, sir.
It wasn't so much hidden; it was very much in your face.
It was very much in your face. Even at school, when I got into high school, the kids didn't want to hang out with me because I was black. I had very little friends. I told Cindy that I was basically a loner when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Because my two brothers are twins, they were down about 3 or 4 grades before. Well, I was in 7th grade. They were probably in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Because they got held back so many times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But anyway, when I was in school, there was times when I would go into the classroom and on the blackboard someone wrote Israel Flores, and they showed a picture of a can of paint that's black.
Wow.
And they say Izzy black.
Wow.
So that's the kind of stuff I put up with.
Yeah.
It wasn't uncommon for me or the twins to be in the park at 3:00 in the afternoon because that was where everybody had their fights.
Okay.
So I'll see you in the park at 3:00.
Okay. Oh, because that was a legit thing. It's such
a
cliche thing to hear now, but that was really happening.
Oh yeah. To be Puerto Rican and to be in that section of town, especially with all the children of the whole area going to the same school that you're going to, everybody knew you then.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, well, I never seen that kid. No, everybody knew who that kid was. That kid was Israel Flores, and I don't like him.
Yeah.
Until I met Cindy, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But because of that, I did not like to be in school. Although I wanted to graduate, as soon as my dad told me when I was 16, he said, "Son, I need you to quit school."
Okay.
To help us with the stuff. I said, yeah, sure. So I quit school when I was 16 and went to work at a shoe factory, making $1.60 an hour.
Wow.
So the government got done with taking their cut out of your pay. You're lucky if you went home with $50.
Yeah.
And on top of that, then, half of that would go to my parents.
Okay. Yeah, so you really, all that work just for $25 roughly.
And the thing about it was that out of that, I would spend about $25 in gas.
Gotcha.
So I was always broke.
Yeah.
Because, those cars back in those days, they were gas hogs.
Yeah.
Gas was cheap. 32 cents a gallon is cheap. But still, when it uses $15 in a week, that's a lot of money.
Absolutely.
So, and there was times when the owner of the garage would say, no more gas for you until you pay your bill.
Okay.
So, I was tough.
I can imagine.
And not only that, but then I had a bad habit of smoking.
And that can take that. How much was a pack of cigarettes back in those days?
Well, a pack of cigarettes was, I think the average when I was smoking a lot was 30 cents a pack.
Okay, because now they're up there.
Yeah,
I think they're close to $10 a pack.
Yeah, $10 a pack. That's pretty. But still, I was a go-getter kind of guy.
Yeah,
I had big dreams all the time. If you would have seen the car that I drove, you would say, "Whoa, that's a car." It was a '63 Pontiac Catalina. And it was about 3 blocks long.
Long body.
Yeah, long body, and it was wide.
Yeah.
And I took care of that car like it was my girlfriend.
Yeah.
First thing I did was when the 8-tracks came out, that's the first thing I did was went and bought one. It cost me $60. I said, wow, that's expensive. But I don't care. It's my car.
Yeah.
And I bought 6 speakers,
Okay.
Because the car only had 1 speaker.
Gotcha.
That was always in the front dash. But I put speakers in and I made it look nice. We had the little pine trees hanging from the rear mirror. And it always smelled good in there. As a matter of fact, when I used to have my cars around here, my brother Tony would get it. Boy, that reminds me when we were 16. Okay, so what? But that's just stuff that comes to your head when you were that age. But one of my favorite places to go when I was 16 was just to get out of the house was Green Dragon.
Okay, yeah.
And, and then I started getting friends that were up there every Friday or Saturday. And I met some nice, cool people up there, but it's still the fact that people would be always looking out for you because you were Puerto Rican.
Sure.
They didn't want you around.
Yeah.
My would-be father-in-law now, he used to hate my guts so bad that he didn't even want me to park the car on his street.
Really?
Yeah, that's how bad he hated
So when you would go pick up Cindy, you weren't able to park the car in order to go.
Well,
did he want you coming up to the house to get so even that, like, usually it's the other way where
if he would see me on the street, he would chase me.
Yeah, wow.
That's how bad it was. He would try to run me over if he could.
Yeah.
But Cindy would always walk down to our house or ride her bike down. I would never go to her house to pick her up. Yeah. But it got to the point that even the chief of police knew exactly who you were, where you lived, and how many brothers and sisters you. I mean, he knew everything about you. And one time I went through a yellow light at the center of town, and he pulled me over. And I said, "What's up?" He says, "You just went through a red light." I said, "No, I didn't." He says, "Yes, you did. That light was." I said, "That light was yellow." He says, "That light was red." And I must have argued with him for about 10 minutes about the light being the right color.
Right.
And he said, "Okay, Israel, we could do this the easy way or we could do this the hard way. Which way do you want to go?" So I said, "You know what? Give me the ticket."
Yeah.
So I took the ticket. Lost my license for 2 weeks. But
you lost your license for a traffic violation back then? Or?
Yes. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was.
What'd you do for 2 weeks? Just hitch a ride with other people?
Drove around.
That wasn't going to stop you.
No, I wasn't going to stop me. I just tried to stay out of his view. You know?
Sure.
But one time, I guess I was almost 17 or 18 years old, and I had a bad habit of watching Johnny Carson. And one time I got out of work a little late, so I got out of the work, which is Warner Lambert Lidditz, which is now Pfizer. I pulled out of there, and by the time I hit the Lidditz Square, I was doing 60 miles an hour through town. I had turned left there, and I went down East Main Street, and I was doing 95 miles an hour till I got to my house. I pulled in an alley where we always turned around, and as soon as I looked in the rear mirror, I saw the lights of the car and his thing going around in circles up there. I said, "Whoops!" And I ran into the house, and I locked the door, pulled down the shades, and I just peeked out the window. He went over and touched the car and everything else. And I said, "He's going to pull me over tomorrow." Yeah. So that same night, the next day, I crawled home. I was less than 25 miles an hour because I knew he was going to stop me. And as soon as I turned on East Main Street, he stopped me. He said, "Israel, I knew that was you. If I ever catch you doing anything, you're going straight to jail."
Man.
But, you know, I still have one or two friends that me and the twins were always tight because we didn't have a lot of friends.
Gotcha.
We did a lot of things together. Like when we went to the spring pool, we always went together. And that's where I met my wife, Cindy. And I had just got done talking to her, met her, and somebody called her dad.
Wow.
Let him know that I was at the pool with Cindy. When he came up there, he actually went straight to where I was. How he knew who I was, I don't know. But, you know, he brought the police with him, and he wanted to start something right there. And I said, "You're right, buddy."
Yeah.
You're right. And when I said, "Here I am, buddy," about 5 or 6 guys stood up behind me. And he thought about this big. He says, "I ought to kill you." And the cop says, "Hey, watch what you're saying, buddy. You get yourself in trouble." But he left and never saw him again. But I didn't stop seeing Cindy that night. I was at her house.
Okay.
He wasn't there. I know when he wasn't there because
Sure.
she'd call me and let me know he wasn't there.
Sure.
But
I'm sure there was a little dance you had to do.
Oh yeah. I mean, I used to jump out of windows when he used to get home. I didn't look at the door. Wherever there was an outside a chance, that's where I'd go. But you know what? We always lived in that town and did what we had to do, and I had big plans. I was hoping to buy a house, a brand new car, and everything else, but my parents held me back from that. And in '71, my parents decided to move back to Puerto Rico, and they made all of us go back.
Okay, how old were you then when you moved back to Puerto Rico?
18.
Wow. Okay, so you had already pretty much established,
yes,
at a young age,
yes,
that life of
yes,
especially driving and socializing as a teenager. You were then forced to move to Puerto Rico. Was that your first time going to Puerto Rico?
Yes, it was the first time. I never even knew where Puerto Rico was until I started hearing about it, and I said, I better look this up, see where it's at.
Wow.
The thing about it is, I told my dad, I'm not going. He says, yes, you are. And my other brothers said the same thing, the twins. They said, I'm not going. And Dad says, yes, you are. And my one brother, Andrew, said, Dad, I'm not going. And my dad grabbed him by the hair and pushed, and he was ready to punch him when he remembered it was Good Friday.
Oh, wow.
And he said, buddy, you're lucky.
Yeah.
You're lucky. And we all went. Everybody went to Puerto Rico. And I said, the only way I'm going is if I take Cindy with me. So I took Cindy along.
Okay.
I think she was 14.
Oh, wow.
And I was just turning 19.
Oh, wow.
And
was that a problem, taking her along with her family?
Not for me. It wasn't a problem, and not for her, because she was at my house all night that night. And the thing about it was that if they would have caught me, then I'd probably be in prison today.
Yeah.
Because back then, they threw the book at you.
Yeah.
And especially if you were black or Puerto Rican, they threw the book at you twice.
Yeah.
So I took Cindy with me, and her dad found out about it, and he went down there looking for me and looking for her. And
he went down to Puerto Rico?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
How did that, I mean, if you don't mind, how was that experience?
If you ever want to find the FBI at your house,
oh my God,
do that. But
yeah,
I was staying with my grandmother, with Cindy, and we had moved from my uncle's house to my other aunt's house to my grandmother's house. In less than a week, we had moved around us, and but they found us there. And the guy said to me, you're in a lot of trouble. I said, well, what did I do? Can you tell me what? And I said, tell me in English, because I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And he uttered that I stole her.
Mm.
And they took us downtown to a place in Rio Piedra.
Okay, where's that?
That's the metropolitan area of San Juan. And they took her away. I put her in some house for girls.
Okay.
And he talked to me for about an hour and a half. And he says, buddy, I'm going to let you go. I said, really? He says, yes, you haven't done nothing wrong here. They can't touch you for this.
Yeah.
And he said, if I was you, I'd be back tomorrow and pick her up.
Wow.
And I thought of that. I said, if I even stick my nose in linnets, I will die in prison.
Sure.
So I didn't go back for her. I was really, really sad to the point where I was drinking every night, until I couldn't stand it. After 2 years, I said, you know what, I got to forget her.
Yeah.
And that's what I did for 30 years. I forgot about her. 30 years later, here she comes.
Wow.
I go to her house because the company told me, we have an irate lady who doesn't have any cable, and she wants to know why.
At this time, you worked for Comcast, correct?
Yes, I did. I was working for Comcast. I had come back from Puerto Rico twice already because when I came back in '76, and I found a good job and everything, and I was working at Armstrong seating plant in Marietta, but I hated the 3-shift work.
Sure, yeah.
And it wasn't because I wanted to, I had to.
Yeah.
And after 6 years of it, I just couldn't take it no more. And I always wanted to be, you always read about it or look on TV about those guys that are beach bums.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's what I want to be. I just want to live in Puerto Rico, be free. And I guess I should have said I got married in '73 to this young lady, and we had children already. My oldest daughter was born, and '76 I said, I'm leaving, I'm going home. And we came back, and we lived here again for another 5 or 6 years. And again, I got there, I'm going to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And I told my mother that, and she and Dad talked about it, and they bought a piece of land over there, and I said, I want half of it. So she sold me half to me, and it was 3.5 acres each.
Wow.
So I went back over there, and in '89, I couldn't stand it no more. I couldn't find a job. I was having a problem with my marriage, and I said, Mom, I'm leaving, see ya. And came back in '89, and been here since 1989, and I don't think I ever want to go to Puerto Rico again.
Okay. So that experience, you think the back and forth and being forced when you were 18 to initially move there, you think that entire experience kind of tainted your wanting to, maybe your experience with Puerto Rico?
See, in Puerto Rico, the environment is totally wrong, different than what it is here. In Puerto Rico, if you want to do anything, you got to have a godfather.
Okay. What do you mean?
A godfather, like, well, they call it a godfather, but
when you say if you want to do anything, like
for instance, you want to buy a car, take someone with you who knows about cars.
Oh, okay.
Because if not, they're going to take you across big time.
Sure.
If you wanted a job, take someone who worked there, because that person will help you to get, I know him, blah, blah, blah.
Gotcha.
And my wife's one brother-in-law says, come on over, I'll give you a hand, I'll help you build the house, I'll help you find a job, blah, blah. And when I got over there, nothing.
Wow. So you couldn't find work, you were having a tough time with it.
I didn't have no work, I couldn't find a place to work. And when I did find a place to work, I had problems, because then in Puerto Rico, I was an American because I spoke English. Mm-hmm. And so they were afraid that I was going to steal their job or get a better job than that. So that person didn't want me around.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I would go put an application in, and I would see that the guard would take it, crumble it up, throw it in the garbage can.
But wow, not even look at it?
He wouldn't even let nobody look at it. He just crumbled it up, throw it in the garbage can.
So this you're experiencing in Puerto Rico,
yes.
That was frustrating, I'm sure, because you're Puerto Rican.
Yes. So, the worst thing that I hated about Puerto Rico was the bugs.
The bugs.
Mosquitoes or something terrible.
I hear that. Yeah, I hear that all the time.
And then I have a sweetness for those bugs, because my sugar's sweet, so they want it.
All right. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not kind of allergic to the mosquitoes, but I mean, wherever you go, I don't care if it's a corner or your house or the store, there's bugs everywhere. So anyway, it was tough to live down there, and every time you went someplace to do something, if you spoke English, I'll get out of here, buddy. We don't need you.
Yeah. It's like a reverse racism in a way, where
it is.
You're experiencing this same dynamic, but by your own people.
Yes, exactly.
It's for reasons that you can't really control.
Well, let me tell you this story real quick. I was working. I found a job making, I don't know, it was $6 an hour, construction, and it was raining, so everybody piled into a tool shed. And while we were in the tool shed, I was talking to my brother Tony, and we were talking in English. And this dude comes over and says, Brother Israel, we're in Puerto Rico. Why don't you speak Spanish? And I said to him, hey, buddy, let me tell you this. I'll speak what I want to speak, when I want to speak, how I want to speak. This is my mouth, not yours. So I can talk whatever I want to. He got so mad that he left and quit.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how prejudiced they were down there. Yeah. He told me, if you ever go past my house, if I see you, I'll shoot you.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It was important for me to have this episode for Thanksgiving because, as I sat there and listened to Dio Izzy share his story, I was aware that he needed to take a little more time to get the words out. And, we briefly talked about in the beginning the stroke that he suffered a few months back and how it's forced him to slow down. And so I was really I really wanted to absorb patience, the sentiment of being patient for somebody, just letting him talk. And even though he had suffered this stroke, he's still really able to share some funny stories, some deeply personal things here. We're talking about never really feeling like he fit in anywhere. He didn't feel like he belonged in the United States. He didn't feel like he belonged in Puerto Rico. And he's Puerto Rican. And I can somewhat relate to that. It was important for me to have this episode for Thanksgiving because we could all learn patience, to be thankful and to be grateful, to appreciate things, but just be patient. Be patient with somebody. Sometimes we get carried away with being annoyed by this trait or that trait of somebody, but take some time to get to know them. There's some things that you may not know. Be patient. So maybe, after you listen to this episode during your holiday season or during the rest of this year into next year, start practicing some patience. Coming up next, Dio, as he continues to share his stories of dealing with racism, that interesting dynamic, we also start to dive more into his faith and how God spoke to him, his experience with the evilness in this world, actually experiencing moments with the devil, as he says. So there is some interesting things to listen to in this interview. And again, I'm imploring you to just have some patience, because everybody has a journey, and this is a special one here. Listening to Dio Izzy speak, it's all genuinely coming from his heart. I believe that, and I'm appreciating that, and I hope you are too. Let's get right back into it. Episode 49, Israel Flores. Let's go. One of the things that, and I remember, like, your brother, my father-in-law, Jerry, also expressed that same sentiment, like that, experiencing the racism and Lidditz, experiencing that reverse type of racism, really, in Puerto Rico. It was almost like no matter where you weren't really welcomed.
That's right.
And so I can understand when you say, like, I Puerto Rico, I don't think I'll ever want to go back. It's almost like there wasn't really anything that. Did you ever feel like you belonged anywhere?
No, sir.
Yeah.
I told my mom and I told Cindy that I was a man without a country.
Yeah.
Because I didn't belong here and I didn't belong in Puerto Rico. Where did I belong? Nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's where God comes into play with this, because if it weren't for God, I probably would have killed myself which I thought of it a lot of times, especially when I lost Cindy. I wanted to kill myself. And God always kept me from doing stuff like that. No matter what happened, God was always there taking care of me. And my ex-father-in-law was a crazy man. I mean, he was the kind of man that if he wasn't we were playing dominoes, and if he wasn't winning, he'd pick up the dominoes, throw them away. Nobody plays.
Yeah, gotcha. Sore loser.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way he was. And I mean, if one time his wife served him scrambled eggs, and he threw them out the window. I said, I can't eat that. I have high cholesterol, blah, blah, That's the kind of person he was. That's one of the reasons why I came back, because I made the mistake of putting him to live on my land, trying to help him out.
Yeah.
And they took over. I couldn't do nothing. I mean, they stole my chickens. They ate all the tomatoes out of the field and all the vegetables. And so I told my ex-wife, I said, I'm going to kill that old man. She grabbed me by the shirt and she held me back because I was going to go out and kill that guy. Well, so we came back, and when I came back here, I started going to church all the time, and they invited me to go to a place in Harrisburg, and they called it a concilio. It was a 3-day retreat.
Okay.
For men only.
Okay.
And I went, and I found out that it was the most special place I ever saw in the world, or felt. I've never felt being part of no place, but this place I felt like staying there.
Yeah.
Because it was nice. And here's what happened to me. I was standing, and nothing happened on Friday. I went there Friday. Friday evening, they had a service and all that stuff, and we went to bed. The next day was Saturday, and by noon, I was trying to get in line to go to confession. And during the time I was in line, I heard my name called. And when I heard my name, I turned to the guy behind me and said, what do you want? He said, I didn't call you. So I let it go. Another time, I heard my name, and I asked the guy in front of me, hey, what do you want? You called me. He said, no, I didn't call you. Said Adrian again behind me. I didn't say nothing. On the third time when he said Israel, and I never heard Israel be said in such a fine way. It was so beautiful that I started to cry.
Wow.
And I got the idea in my head, oh, this is God.
Yeah.
In the Bible, there's a story about the prophet Samuel, and Samuel was laying down one time, and he heard his name being called, and he ran to his caretaker and said, "What do you want?" He said, "No, that wasn't me. Go, you were dreaming or something."
Yeah.
And he heard this 3 times. And 3 times he heard Samuel, and the last time he ran to the guy that was taking care of him, and he said, "You called me, right?" He goes, "No, but next time that you hear this, you say, 'Here what I am.'" And he did that, and then he went on to be a huge prophet.
Mm.
And it was beautiful, but I knew I received God that day. I decided, I told Adrian, who was behind me, he was one of my friends, and I said, let's go into the tent over there, to the prayer tent, and pray. And when I got there, I got on my hands and knees with Adrian, and I told God, "Lord, take away all the pain that I have, and take away, Lord, this shyness that overwhelms me," because I was one of those people that I was afraid to look up at anybody.
Talking eye to eye was hard for you?
Oh, I refused to do that. My parents always said, "You don't look at a person in the eyes like that."
Yeah. My mom would say the same thing.
Yeah,
to me.
so
don't look at me. When
exactly.
she was scolding me, I wasn't allowed to look at her.
Exactly. So we never did it, and I grew up to a point where I was here, almost 20 years old, and I didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't have nobody. Well, I had my wife, but my wife was only Spanish. She didn't learn to speak English for a very, very long time. She didn't drive. I had to do everything for her, everything.
Gotcha. Do you think that when we started talking, and we were talking, catching up, and I was asking how you were doing before we were recording, you were hinting around how you felt that the experience of the stroke that you believe was there's a reason behind that. You feel like you're being called for something. Is that fair to say, or did you want to elaborate on that?
Let me elaborate it this way. I think God was calling me, but the thing is that I think that the devil calls me louder than God does.
Sure.
And I did more wrong than I did good.
Okay.
And everything I did it for myself.
Okay.
And when I got married to my ex-wife, I got married for just to leave the house.
Okay.
And I think that every time I would think of something, it would always come up to the negativity, and that's the way I would go. My parents didn't like the way I thought, but hey, who cares?
Yeah.
But when I got to this place, it was called New Dawn Camp, and
Udon, I'm sorry?
New Dawn.
New Dawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a camp for Catholic people and all this. And there, while I was on my prayers, I asked the Lord to forgive me for all the sins that I had committed. Because I knew I did a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
You name it, I did it.
Okay.
I didn't kill nobody, but I thought of it.
Sure.
And I wanted to kill my father-in-law, so I hated him.
Yeah.
But anyway, I asked God to make me bold and make me to always want to look for Him in everything that I do. And right now, I think I'm about as bold as I could ever be. You couldn't get anybody to say some of the stuff that I would say because I was not afraid. And I have my reasons, but I'm a little like Samson was in the Bible. Samson was a strong man, and when he really related to God, God would bless him strongly to the point with strength that was incredible. He killed 1,000 people with a jawbone of a donkey. Anyway, this is what I mean by that. One time when I was working for Comcast, I was in the South, so far down I had no idea where I was, and it was snow rain. I don't know if it's like ice, sheet.
Sure.
And I was way down there, and I slid off the road, got my truck in a ditch, and I said, how am I going to get to my next job? And I must have pushed and pushed to the point where I could not push no more. And I got this close to getting that truck out. And I said within an inch I would have got it out of it. But you know what? I didn't get it out. And so I sat behind the steering wheel. I said, Lord, give me the strength of Samson so I can get this truck out of here. I can go about my work. And with that, I just felt like a new man.
Wow.
And I just went outside and I went in front of the truck and pushed it. And when I pushed it, it fell right in the road. How you like that?
Yeah.
And I said, thank you, Lord. And I went and did the rest of my work went great the rest of the day. So things like that happen to me a lot of times. And a lot of times I'll ask God for help. And God will give me the strength and the durability and the know-how to do that job. So I can't complain when I say God has helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
I can't complain. The thing about it is when I was, I think when I was 17, I was one time praying in my room, and I was making what they call in Spanish a novena.
Okay.
It was 7 days of prayer and all that stuff. And one of the things that I was praying about is I said, Lord, don't ever let me go to Vietnam, and don't ever let me do Cindy. Well, I never went to Vietnam. When my time came up to go, I got a note from the government saying, if you don't want to go, you don't have to. The draft is out of effect. So, hooray for me. Hooray for me. I did not want to go. And, being the oldest of 7 boys, the first thing they're going to put me when I got the alarm was in a machine gun nest.
Yeah.
That's the first thing they take out. So I didn't go, and I praised God for that. And then I said, well, God took care of half of this thing, but not all of it, because I lost Cindy.
Yeah.
And you know what? 30 years later, I got Cindy back.
Yeah.
Now, you tell me, was that God working for me? I love her like you can't love any other person. And I think she loves me the same way. And we're so happy that we're together again. And we've been through a lot of stuff together, but we still love each other. And here I am, 71 years of age, and she's 66. And we still love each other like 2 teenagers.
Mm.
And it's, so God filled that whole dream for me.
Yeah.
And ever since I was a little fella, I've been called by God to do this or that. One of the things that I remember that I think that God called me to be a pastor. Let me tell you one of the reasons why I wanted to be a pastor. The priest would come into our school and teach us religion at that time. I don't know, maybe 12.
Okay.
And I was going to a Catholic school at the time.
Okay.
And the priest would come in and give us religious class. And he used to do this magic trick about a quarter he would bring it out of my ear or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And I said, hey, that's cool. That's the way to get friends. Bring a quarter out of their ear. So, God helped me to be a priest so I could do that too. And God started calling on me and wanted me to be a priest. And the thing about it was that I decided not to become a priest, even though God was calling, because I love girls too much.
Gotcha.
Priests can't get married. So,
yeah.
So I said, you know what? I don't want to. So I went all this time without becoming a priest. And after I retired, God started calling me again. And God made me go to the school to get my high school diploma. It wasn't nothing I wanted to do. God wanted me to do it, so I did it.
Yeah.
And I got my diploma, my GED. And then he started telling me I can go to college. And I wanted to be a pastor. And so I started going to, I tried everything in my book to try to get into a regular college. Well, I couldn't find no place to go. Too expensive, didn't have the money, didn't have a way to get there. So I decided to talk to my pastor. I was going to the church I was going. And he told me, if you do this and that, you can go to a place up in Camp Hill called, that place there, Pendel School of Ministry. And so I joined, and I went there for a whole year, and I had all kinds of trouble going up there. I'm one of these persons that I never get lost when I'm going somewhere.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, you have GPS,
Yeah.
and you have it on the radio, on your phone, and I still got lost going. You like that?
It can happen, though.
Yeah. I mean, and every time I got out of school at 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'd always get lost coming home. I said, you know what, this got to stop. I mean, and I even looked at the map 100 times. And I looked at it, and I just couldn't make my way. I always get home an hour and a half late.
Gotcha.
But the thing about it is, I think that was the devil trying to get me to say,
Sure.
I'm not going no more.
Yeah.
And since I told the devil, you know what, I'm going. So the devil says, you know what, I'm going to give you a stroke. And I got a stroke, and I couldn't go to school this year. So I'm hoping maybe next year. I'm hoping. I don't know if I will, but I pray to God that He helps me to go next year.
Yeah.
And still become a pastor.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that God has ever done to me is showed me the things of this world and how it could be if I would took that path, to the point to where he let Satan come to my house one time. I was hurt at home. I had my arm in a sling because I had a torn rotator cuff, and I just got it operated on. I fell with my ladder from Comcast.
Oh, wow.
And ripped my shoulder all to pieces. And I got it fixed, and I was at home recuperating. And I was in a lot of pain, and I was just sitting there. I was sleeping downstairs in a one of those seats that reclines.
Yeah.
And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just sitting there, miserable. And I hated every moment of it. But then all of a sudden, I looked over to the side, and there sat the man beside me. A man sitting beside me.
You saw a man sitting beside you.
I saw a man sitting beside me, and he was dressed like you wouldn't believe. And you know how the only one I can think of is my son, who, when he trims his beard up, he trims it up to perfection.
Yeah.
And he had a perfect trimmed beard, and he just smiled at me. Had a good old gold teeth up here.
What was he wearing?
He was wearing a pinstripe suit.
Okay.
I think it was made of silk because it was beautiful. And he looked at me and says, "Well, like this to me." He shook his head. "How you doing?" And I looked at him and said, "Not so good." He goes, "I can fix everything for you." And I was watching TV in the corner, and all of a sudden that TV just went away. The whole corner just went away, and I saw all kinds of beautiful art, all different colors of things that I never could even imagine existed. Greens that I never saw. I love the color green. Green is my favorite color. That's why my buddy's green.
Yeah.
But this dude says, "Well, you want that stuff? I can give it to you." And I looked at him and, "No, thank you. My soul belongs to Jesus." Just like that. He was gone.
Wow.
Just like that. I mean, gone. And I figured, you know what? So that's God's telling me that I can have whatever I want if I give my soul to Him, but I don't want Him. I want Jesus. But if you follow me, He said, you might pay for it.
Yeah.
So I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. But God lets me live. He lets me breathe. He lets me eat. He doesn't take a cent from me. He doesn't care how I dress. He doesn't care how my face looks or anything. He just wants me to say, "I love Jesus." You know, it fascinates me to be able to see the things that God has done for me, and to see how He has helped me. I've never had a lot of money. I never had a real extravagant job. I never had big friends. But you know what? I have a friend in Jesus, and Jesus takes care of me, and Jesus helps me, and I think that we're living at the end times right now, and I think that Jesus wants me to tell the world, "Hey, I'm coming back soon. You know how much time." So I want the world to know that Jesus is coming back. When? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because the Bible says nobody knows.
Gotcha.
But there will be a time where I hate to see something like this, but when you would see some of your family's clothing where they were sitting and they're not there.
Yeah.
Why? Because the rapture happened and I wasn't taken.
Yeah.
I keep telling Cindy that that's the most important part of my life right now, is to help people to love God and to understand that God is willing to help them if they just give their heart to Jesus.
Yeah.
You can't go to heaven doing all kinds of things that the world likes, like movies and roller skating and hockey or the Eagles or whatever the thing you like, because it's not about that. It's about whether you love God or not. To be a Christian is not a very pretty thing nowadays, because most people nowadays don't care about religion or anything that has to do with religion. There's times when you think about Jesus and you say, you know what, maybe next time.
Yeah.
And they live their lives, and when they come to see it, they're going to hell, and they're saying, why, Lord, why? Well, I never knew you. And I don't want anybody to say that they didn't go to see Jesus because they were never interested, or they never saw him, or they never experienced him. To experience Christ is the most beautiful thing there is. And to live for Christ is the most worthy thing you can do. I don't care how much money you have in the world. If you don't have Christ, you don't have nothing. You can have all the money in the world and still know Christ. You can have good things in the world and still know Christ. The thing is, if those things are gone, we still know Christ.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know this, but they think that, well, my mother's one of those people who thinks that she has to work her way to Jesus. And I say, Mom, when you die, you're going to see Jesus first thing. She goes, well, si me lo gane. Well, if I earned it.
Okay.
I said, Mom, it don't have to do nothing like that. It has to do whether you love Jesus and you know him. And she does. I don't think that she could say stuff like that anymore, because I don't know half the stuff she tells me anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I think that just really kind of goes back to like her upbringing and beliefs as well, and how I think like in general, just when you are when you're dead set in your belief and you feel it, like I'm listening to you, and you're it's very much coming from inside you. It's no matter what anybody can say, you just I'm looking at it and I see it this way, and I'm really appreciative that we're here now talking about that, because one of the things that I like to do to wrap up interviews is I like to ask like my guests what's your goal in the near future? What do you see yourself doing in the next 5 to 10 years? And from it sounds like we're already talking about it, where it sounds like your goal is to get back to going to school again and following what you believe your calling is.
Yes. And the reason I want to go to school is because, I do a lot of stuff at my house, Bible study, services, whatever. And some people like to ask the question, why should I believe you? What authority do you have? And I want to be able to say, I went to school for this.
Yeah.
Right now, I could only say, I went 1 year to school.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to say, I'm a pastor. I went to school to be a pastor. So, because people want to know where you get your information from.
Yeah, your qualifications.
Yeah, your qualifications.
Yeah.
So that's important to me. And I think it's important for God too.
Sure.
Because if you tell somebody, well, I don't know where it comes from the Bible. Where in the Bible? I don't know.
Right.
You have to know.
Yeah.
If somebody asks you how to get downtown, if you live here all your life and you don't know how to tell somebody to get downtown, That's pretty sad.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad. And there's a lot of people like that.
Right.
There is. That,
Yep.
Well, some people have a problem in their head where they can't even work their way out of a closet. But the thing about it is, if you're a normal human being,
Right.
you should be able to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
But we all make fun of my wife because my wife is one of those people that she gets she goes to the kitchen and says, "How do I get in the refrigerator?" It's right in front of you.
What are you gonna do? Huh?
Yeah, what can you do except smile here, honey? See, look at this.
Deal Izzy, I'm really grateful, and I wasn't expecting I was expecting listening to your journey, but there were some things that I wasn't expecting, and so I'm really grateful to just take a little peek into your life, because there's only so much that we can talk about in an hour, and I'm sure that we could go hours and hours. I'm sure there's stories and stories.
Oh yes.
But just for the moment that we've had, I'm grateful, and I thank you for reaching out to Alexandra and even just asking to be on the podcast, because there's a lot of people that don't even know what a podcast is, and they get really nervous, and it's kind of hard sometimes for me to kind of convince people like, no, it's okay, sit down, we're just having a conversation.
Well, when I read in the Bible where it talks about the coming down of the New Jerusalem, that's a beautiful place to be. To walk those streets of gold, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm always one of those guys that have big dreams. My wife says I dream too big. Well,
can you ever really dream too big, though, dude?
No, you can't. Well, in my mind, I'm 6'5", so when I'm really only 5'6", but I turn around 6'5". To be a small person in this world, I don't know how Danny DeVito did it, but he made it,
He did.
But
there you go.
He's a real small person. And you look at him beside Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you say, how can those guys even talk? I mean, give me a step ladder so I can talk to this man. But the thing about it is, you want to be big, join God's crowd, and watch how big you can get. Just remember that you can fall from there too. And that's why you always have to have Jesus on your side. When you don't live for Jesus no more, and you're way up there, it's a long way down. Mm. And hey, can I give you my web address?
Yeah, go ahead. You can say whatever you want.
Well, if anybody wants to talk to me or ask about God, that you can reach me at Star of Israel 1601 at gmail.com.
Okay.
And
write that down for me before you leave, and
okay.
I'll add it to the. I can add it to the episode as well.
The reason I say that is because one of the reasons that I wanted to get on here with you is because maybe this could be a stepping stone.
Sure, for somebody, absolutely.
For somebody else too,
Yeah.
and I hope so. And I hope that God will bring you big blessings.
Oh, thank you.
Because of this.
Thank you.
I hope it goes well. I hope you get bigger than, what's the name? Stern.
Howard Stern.
Bigger than Howard Stern.
Those are big shoes to fill.
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, but that's because he gives his life to anybody except Jesus. That's why he's so big. But God bless you. Thank you for having me on here.
Thank you.
And maybe we can do it again someday.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. All right, Theo, that's it.
Hey, what a way to celebrate Thanksgiving. Celebrate being thankful, surrounded by your loved ones, friends and family, people that you hold dear to yourself. Listening to a story like this, it helped me put things into perspective. And I genuinely appreciated Deal Izzy being vulnerable enough to share these things. And there are some things that I got to know that I didn't know. I didn't realize how determined he was. He's a very determined person. And I hear stories from him and from other people about the Flores family back in the day, and I'm sure he was a very determined young man and sibling as well, but with a lot of responsibility put on his shoulders. That's something I can relate to. His parents saying, hey, you're in charge, you know what I mean? You're in charge, and if you fuck up, hey, you're in charge, don't mess up. He was on a schedule. He needed to he needs to take more naps than he likes to, so we really couldn't get into too much more in this episode. And trust me, there's more that I really would have gotten to. There's more that I would have loved to know. There's still more that I would have loved to talk about. Talk about his children, talk about his marriage more, talk about his experience working at Comcast, the handyman in him, the guy that was fixing things, and the go-getter mentality. There's so much more that we could have gotten into. And look, every single episode is like that. Every single interview is like that. We just can't get into everything. But God willing, one day, maybe I can have Dio back on, and we'll shoot this and we'll have a good time. Well, I'll have him back on next time, and we'll have a good time. Who knows? Until then, listen, everybody, please maintain focus and stay continuous through all 4 seasons, especially this season of being thankful, being grateful. Surround yourself by your loved ones, and always keep your head up. All right? My name is Felix C. Arroyo, and these are the Journeyman Chronicles. Y'all be safe.